Então, agora eu vou chamar o Dr. Francesco Carones e escutar um pouquinho sobre a nova lente monofocal Plus, Vivinex Impress, ah, que a Roya já lançou no Brasil. eh, e eu acho que essa lente é muito interessante. Vamos ver o que o Dr. Carones tem para passar para a gente. Então, ele é um dos cirurgiões que mais tem experiência, né, em utilizar essa lente. Então, vamos escutar o que ele tem para nós. Thank you, Professor. It's a pleasure to have you here in Brazil with us.
Thank you, and thanks to Oya and Adapta for giving me this tremendous opportunity to present a very interesting new monofocal plus lens that basically changed the way that I'm approaching patients, both when they just have cataract, but also when I want to achieve something more than just a plain or distance vision. I have some financial disclosures to make. And let me start talking about the classification of IOLs that expand the range of vision, because you can use the traditional, well-known optical performance-based classification, where you have monofocal, monofocal plus, bifocal, trifocal, or you may use a different classification related to the optical design that the lens has, whether they diffract the light or refract the light. There are also pinhole lenses as well. Or, as I do routinely, you may want to use the classification that has been developed by ECOS that really regards the performances of the optics of the IOL. So we have monofocal lenses, the traditional one. We have the monofocal plus that expand a little bit the range of vision down to 100, 110 centimeters. We have increased the range of focus IOLs, bringing the light closer, giving the patients a great intermediate and a useful near. And then we have the full range of vision, like the geometric, where lenses really bring all the focal lights at all distances down to a real close reading distance. I'd like to start showing you this focus curve of a traditional monofocal IOL, just to summarize the fact that when talking about diopters, according to the Snell law, we know that diopters are basically distances. And we know that even a monofocal IOL has some little expanded range of vision, as you can see in this slide. So if we assume that a little bit, it's half diopters, it means that a monofocal IOL can focus from infinity to about 200 centimeters, 2 meters distance. And here's what we find then when classifying these lenses. So the monofocal lens has just a little bit of advantage, not giving any useful intermediate. The monofocal plus can give an intermediate pretty satisfactory, and the two lenses increase the range of focus, and full range of focus can really give a satisfactory spectacle independence to our patients. So the three lenses, the three last lenses was what I like to call as, presbyopia correcting IOL. And here you see the same translated on the focus curve involving the four categories. So you see that if we consider that whatever is in the range of the blue box gives near spectacle independence, and whatever is in the yellow box gives a near functional, you may see that, needless to say, the trifocal or full range of focus IOLs do really provide spectacle independence at all distances, but even the monofocal plus can still give some sort of useful intermediate and near, as we will see in a while. One of the points that I'd like to discuss with you is related to the fact that super performing presbyopic correcting IOLs not only can be implanted, regardless to the reason. That may be costs related or pathology related. So the question that I'm asking myself and the question that I want to explain you is if there are other solutions for those patients who are either not indicated or they decided not to invest that amount of money to reach some presbyopia mitigation once the lens is removed. And we know that monovision can be one of the solutions, but we also know what is wrong with monovision. So the fact that one eye is frankly for near and the other eye is frankly for distance. So when we consider again the defocus curve and we consider the fact that monofocal plus can give a little bit of more, I'll show you why that the option of monofocal plus can give you a better performance. Because here is what you achieve when you use a monofocal monovision approach. So you have the distance dominant eye plano, and you see very well distance with that eye, and you try to set the second eye at a specific distance. So like in this case, if we set the second eye at minus 1.5 diopters, well, minus 1.5 diopters means 66 centimeters. So it means this distance. And given the very small range of vision that the monofocal provides, there is not depth of focus. You can take a decision setting the non-dominant eye at minus 2.5. So in that case, you have much better performance in terms of reading distance. But whatever is the range or whatever is the allocation for the non-dominant eye, you always end up with the same problem. A very short depth of focus for the non-dominant eye and a larger blur distance in between the two eyes, which usually may compromise a little bit the stereopsis in depth of field for our patients. So I was telling you, if you see the focus curve of an enhanced monofocal IOL or a monofocal plus, you see how this little bit gives actually a way deeper a way deeper depth of focus that can be usefully used to play with some sort of enhanced monovision or blended vision, as it's usually called in refractive surgery. So in this case, you see, again, the dominant eye is targeted plano, and the 1 diopters of extra range of focus that the lens gives allow the light to get relatively good in terms of definition down to 100 centimeters, which is not bad. And if you set the non-dominant eye at minus 1.5 diopters, well, you see now that you have some sort of range of vision going through from 66 centimeters down to about 40 centimeters. So the ideal patient can have some range of vision and a blurred distance in between the two lenses or the two eyes that is definitely shorter than what you find with monofocal IOLs. Let's set another example. In this case, we are setting the non-dominant eye with a -1 outcome. So in this case, we have a much less blurred distance in between the two eyes, even though, as a consequence, the performance of the non-dominant eye would not go down to such a close distance to be able to read all distances. But you see, this in this case also that would be much better than what you get with a monofocal IOL. So, just as regards to the clinical results that you may get with these kind of approaches, are there trade-offs in using monofocal plus in a routine way? And the answer is no. It's already been published everywhere that these lenses are not more dangerous, they are as forgiving as monofocal IOLs, so they can be used, let's say, routinely. But also this approach of blending the two eyes to gain as regards depth of focus is an approach that can lead to satisfactory results. So how does this translate with Vivinex, with the Impress? Well, you see here, according to the different classification, how the Vivinex Impress is classified. So it's a monofocal plus given this extended range of focus compared to monofocal IOLs. And this has already been mentioned, very nice injection system. And you see the profile of the lens. The lens basically looks like a monofocal IOL. When you hold the lens under the microscope, you will not see even anything. But the very central part, 2 millimeters in diameter, has a little, very, very smooth changing curvature, allowing this extension of the focus. And this benefit, this extension of the focus can also be measured using aberrometers. And you see here the difference between the Vivinex and the Impress, where with the Impress you have this, larger distribution of the peak of the MTF going into myopic side a little bit. The fact that this lens behaves differently, I don't want to say better, but I want to say differently from monofocal IOLs is under investigation. These are the very early and preliminary results of the study. You see here the characteristics of the study showing the comparison in between the Impress with the monofocal IOL from another company. And you see here how the defocus curve with the Impress is much better than what you get with a traditional monofocal IOL. What about the spectacle independence that you can reach with this approach, especially in comparison with full range of focus and increased range of focus? So you see here a study we have been doing in my practice comparing a non-diffractive extended range of focus, EDOF or IROF, like the Vivity, to trifocal, in this case the geometric, to the Impress with that strategy, leaving the non-dominant eye slightly myopic, just in the let's say in the range in between minus 0.5 to minus 0.75 diopter. And you see that the extended range of focus, the Vivity, gives us some sort of significant and satisfactory spectacle independence, even at 45 centimeters, 45 centimeters. Obviously not as good as a trifocal, but you see the comparison with the let's say the commercial name, with the Impress. Well, the Impress still, with this approach, can lead a significant percentage of patients not wearing glasses even at 40 to 45 centimeters. So the amount of spectacle independence that you can reach is kind of satisfactory, right? Let's see what happens at intermediate, 60 to 65 centimeters. Well, all these lenses have a focal point dedicated to that, so they almost all perform pretty well. What about distance? Well, if you target plano with an increased range of focus or a full range of focus, needless to say, you get more spectacle independence as regards distance. If you target with this mini monovision approach, you may still have patients who every now and then, so occasionally or sometimes, use spectacle corrections for distance, for instance, for driving at night. But in terms of spectacle independence, this approach gives a lot of satisfaction to the patients. What about night vision, which is the collateral effect of spectacle independence? Well, with an increased range of focus, you can get some nice result, definitely better than trifocals, because trifocals give more depth of focus, so they compromise a little bit more night vision. But the approach that you can get with the monovision or the mini monovision approach using a monofocal plus leads to extremely good results as regards the tolerance in terms of quality of vision at night. So just to answer the two questions that I was asking you to listen to, can enhanced monofocal IOL mitigate presbyopia? Well, we know not as much as a trifocal, but at the same time, the price is lower, which sometimes may be an issue. Compromises are nothing. I mean, you really don't have any compromise. The quality of vision is better. The additional workup that you have to do in your practice is not existing. There are no contraindications. That is most important to me. And who is suitable to this approach? All patients, all eyes that for any reasons, anatomical, clinical, but also psychological, or they don't want to have halos, or they have something wrong with the concept of having night dysphotopsia. These are all patients that can take benefit from this approach, which is extremely safe. What about the comparison with monofocal IOLs? So can get rid of monofocals? The answer is yes, as for today, because costs are almost the same. The compromises are the same. I mean, there are no differences. There is no additional workup in adopting monofocal classes versus monofocal traditional. There are no contraindications, and performances are just better. So my to take home message is use this lens, use not only as a replacement for cataract surgery when you just want to target plano, try to consider it using it in this kind of mini monovision approach, and you will get many, many satisfactions. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Caronis. Amazing lecture. So I'm gonna open for a quick discussion, and then please. Ok, no, it's fine. Então a gente vai fazer uma discussão e depois a gente vai fazer o sorteio, tá?
Eu acho que a grande vantagem que nós tivemos com a Monoplus é que nos últimos 15 anos, mais aproximadamente, desde que surgiram as lentes bifocais, a indústria e a oftalmologia têm buscado essa independência dos óculos através das lentes difrativas. E um efeito colateral das lentes difrativas sempre é halo e glare, né? Então, claro, você pode ter mais, menos, estamos melhorando com isso, mas é inerente à tecnologia. Então, sempre vai ter queijo de halos e glare. E agora, recentemente, com as Monoplus que surgiram, a gente está tentando abordar o problema por uma outra maneira, né? Então, existem outros pacientes que vão poder se beneficiar com essa outra tecnologia para redução do uso dos óculos. Por exemplo, eu sou um pouco conservador na indicação de lentes trifocais, principalmente para pacientes pós-refrativa, pós-RK, e nesses pacientes eu nunca indico lentes trifocais. Mas, meu entender, são pacientes excelentes para usar, por exemplo, a Impress, porque esses são pacientes que buscam independência, eles mostram isso para a gente porque eles buscaram a cirurgia há 30 anos atrás, então eles querem ter independência dos óculos, mas ao mesmo tempo eu limito porque eu não quero colocar uma trifocal nele, né, pelas aberrações de alta ordem. Então, por exemplo, esse é um paciente que teria um alto benefício de usar uma lente Impress, né, dar a ele a independência dos óculos, por exemplo, com a mini monovisão, como o Dr. Caronis explicou para nós aqui.
Eu queria voltar um pouquinho na palestra do Sérgio, porque ele mencionou uma característica das lentes Hoya, que é uma rugosidade nas alças, e que dá uma estabilidade especialmente para quem faz lente tórica. Acho que todo mundo que faz lente tórica, especialmente num paciente mais míope, alto míope, já teve assim, a infelicidade de perder um pouquinho da câmera no final, e quando você enche outra vez a câmera, a lente rodou 15 graus por aí você tem que fazer, tem que dar aquela volta inteira outra vez para colocar ela no eixo. Existe uma chance muito menor disso acontecer com essa lente, porque ela realmente ela segura, e ela, diferente das outras, mesmo nos pacientes automíopes, elas têm uma tendência a ter uma estabilidade maior. Então, isso é um diferencial realmente que deve ser exaltado. Mas eu gostaria de fazer uma pergunta para o Francesco, porque na sua exposição você falou que a Impress no centro tem um aumento da curvatura. Pelo menos o que falam para a gente é que ela tem um aumento da aberração, a aberração esférica negativa. Ela é uma lente refrativa que tem um aumento do poder positivo na área central, é isso então?
So the lens holds a spherical aberration as the Vivinex platform to compensate for corneal aberration, for spherical aberration. Only the central part has a very slight change in curvature, which expands this little bit of let's say the focus. So it's not an increased spherical aberration over the entire surface. It is just the center of these 2 millimeters area, which I think that gives the greatest advantages compared to competing technologies where the entire surface changes in spherical aberration. So in my hands, in my experience, one of the biggest advantages of the Impress over the competitors is the fact that they're not pupil dependent. I mean, pupil dependence is neglectable. You will not see the myopic shift of the ions, for instance, when the pupil constricts, or the hyperopic shift of the ray one when the pupil constricts. So it's the stability in terms of outcomes that you have on a daily basis related to the pupil size is way better. Yes.
E só uma pergunta, você considera essa lente uma possível substituta de uma lente monofocal regular? E aí eu abro para vocês discutirem aqui também.
Well, I'm using the Impressa in all cases, unless there is a reason for not using it. And the only reason that I find now, after almost 3 years of experience, is that the only reason for not implanting the Impress is not anatomical, is not clinical, is not pathological, is this just cost related. So in cases I have to implant a patient with a significant macular degeneration, I don't want to charge the patient that little more because of the cost of the lens, which is a little higher than a monofocal IOL. But that's the only reason for me not to implant in the Impressa. I mean, in all cases where you would, like glaucoma or retinal pigment epithelium, I'm not saying maculopathy, but just like a little bit of irregularity of that, I would not see any reasons for not implanting the Impress. The quality of vision and the contrast sensitivity that it provides, it's exactly the same as a monofocal IOL. So you would be very confident that you're not going to induce any problems in patients who have early, subtle, initial pathologies. So it's not a presbyopic correcting IOL. It's a monofocal with a little bit of more increased depth of focus.
Eu concordo, Dr. Carones. Eu acho que tem duas questões aí que a gente, às vezes, indica para um paciente que já tem uma baixa de visão agora, né, como ele comentou agora, por exemplo, paciente com uma oclusão arterial. Claro que você não vai indicar para ele uma Impress, porque ele não vai ter nenhum benefício naquele momento em colocar uma lente dessa, né, e seria usar uma esférica tradicional. Mas, contrapartida, aqueles pacientes que têm uma membrana epitiniana, uma retinopatia diabética não proliferativa, que você se preocupa talvez com o futuro da progressão da doença, em que você não indica uma lente difrativa, é um excelente paciente para colocar essa lente Impressa, porque ele vai colher os benefícios de uma melhor qualidade de visão. E, nesse sentido, a monofocal padrão, esférica, como o senhor falou, no meu entender, também está abolida. Eu praticamente indico para todos os meus pacientes uma Impressa ou monofocal plus como opção, né, quando eu sempre indico, né, a monofocal plus e uma trifocal, por exemplo, né? Se ele não puder colocar a trifocal, por questões financeiras, tem a opção de colocar a monoplus, a Impressa.
Eu adorei a lata de lixo com trash can with the monofocal IOL. Mas eu não vou usar essa lata de lixo ainda, porque já teve no passado outro fabricante que também falou para nós, médicos, que aquela lente ia ter uma performance igual a uma monofocal. Eu fiz também esse implante em pacientes com ceratotomia radial, achando que ia ser performance igual. Não era. E hoje nós sabemos que não era. Então, eu espero mais um ano, aí vou conversar com você se eu vou pôr mesmo minhas monofocais na lata de lixo. Realmente, porque tem um detalhe a mais, talvez, que possamos falar. Se você errar na biometria para mais 0,25, essa lente vai perdoar muito mais do que uma monofocal, né? Porque como ela tem um range of focus, o paciente nem vai perceber essa pequena hipermetropização dela. Então, existem vantagens realmente em relação à monofocal, mas eu ainda vou manter minha trash can fechada lá.
Keep it ready, keep it big. No, I just want to comment and explain better what I'm saying. The example that I usually give is that of a patient having one diopter of astigmatism, which you would correct in most of the cases, but not in all cases. That's the same that would lead your decision whether to go to a traditional monofocal or to an Impress. So in any case that you would correct a one diopter of astigmatism because that would lead to benefits to the patients, you may safely implant an Impress. to go back to the example that I was making earlier, if a patient has a significant macular degeneration and one diopter of astigmatism, I don't correct that diopter because that would not bring any advantage to the patient. Same as regards the ingress.
Thank you, Professor Carones. Obrigado, Hamilton e Ibrahim. Essa sessão foi realmente muito proveitosa. Queria agradecer a todos que estão aqui, especialmente ao pessoal da Roya, da Adapt, que proporcionaram essa reunião aqui com a gente. Hamilton, Ibrahim, Dr. Carones, muito obrigado pela presença.